Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. Today's day 0 of our 30 days of Hypopressives, which is a series for anyone who's already confident with their own practice and the Hypopressives breathwork. So I just want to run through a few things today. We're not going to be doing a practice, but some really important things about the breathwork and about a few modifications as well. So if you've got a ball handy at home, that'll be ideal. If you don't worry, because you don't actually need to use it in the poses if I'm using a ball. So just leave it out, or you can pop a cushion in between your knees or your hands. That'll be absolutely fine. The other thing to say is that if you need to sit on something during the sitting poses, that is really normal. You just want to make sure that when you're in the sitting cross-legged positions, that you're not rolling down into your pelvis and that you are straight up, so you're not leaning forwards or coming back. And often just sitting on a block can make it so much easier for you to get into the right position. Equally, you can sit on like a little coffee table, or you can sit on a chair as well. So any of those modifications are absolutely fine. If you find in any of the poses, because some of them are quite difficult, that you are slightly worried about your balance, then definitely grab a chair, have it next to you, or practice next to a wall so that you can hold onto the wall with one hand while you're doing the pose. Any of the poses that you think are going to be too much for you, then do follow the modifications in the videos. I'll be giving some modifications, but otherwise you can just hold the same pose without moving into any other pose if you think that the movement or the change of the pose is just going to be a little bit too much for you. So there are some contraindications to the vacuum breath. So if you've done hypopressives before, your coach will have highlighted that to you. And obviously if anything has changed in your medical history since you learnt hypopressives and you're unsure, then you need to make sure, check in with your coach, just make sure it's still safe for you to practice. The other thing to say is that during the breath hold, if you need to take a breath at any point, then just take a breath. You want to hold your breath for a comfortable amount of time rather than like coming out gasping. So just keep the breath hold really nice and comfortable, and that will be ideal. So you can take a couple of extra rest breaths if you need to. The other thing to say is there are different nuances of the hypopressives breathwork. So the one that we teach, particularly for pelvic health and for getting really good improvements in symptoms, is possibly slightly different to the one you've been taught. There are different nuances. So I'm just going to go through the one that we teach so that you're clear on that and that you can follow that for when you're doing the videos with us. So when you do the breath work, you want a 360 breath all the way through the rib cage. So you're aiming the air into the sides, into the back of the rib cage. You're also going to get a rise at the front. So when you're sitting sideways and looking in a mirror, when you take a nice steady breath in, you should be able to see there's a little bit of expansion through the back of the rib cage. So that's really important because the movement of the diaphragm mirrors the movement of the pelvic floor. So we want to get as much movement as possible through the breath work so that we can get the hypopressives to work really, really well for us. So the in-breath is a count of 3. So nice and slowly, you just breathe in really nice and gradually through the rib cage. The exhale is like misting a window. What you want to do is take a nice steady breath in for 3, exhale roughly for 6, nice and slowly, breath fades away, and then you pause, relax your tummy completely and come into the rib stretch. There's no pulling in of the belly, there's no forcing of the exhale. If you force the exhale, you're going to put pressure down onto your pelvic floor, and that's just going to compromise your improvements with the technique. So do change your breath work if needed, and we've got more videos to explain that more clearly. If you are watching this video and you're a beginner, then please don't try and learn here. Do get in touch with one of my coaches or myself to have full support. We offer a symptom improvement program which is getting fantastic results for people with prolapse and incontinence, and that is the best place to start for you there. So yeah, so that's just what I wanted to go through before we started. If you've got any questions, then always pop them in the comments underneath. I hope you enjoy the next 30 days with me. It's going to be really, really fun, and whether or not you can do a few days or whether or not you manage to do all of the days, I'll be just delighted for you to join me when you can, and look forward to seeing you then.